Hey everyone, welcome back. Ready for another deep dive. Today we are going,
Into the world of advertising.
you got it. Specifically, we are looking at how
Have been portrayed in advertising.
over the years.
And
And
it's going to be a fascinating journey, you see.
we've got tons of sources for this one.
We do. French articles,
Marketing blogs.
historical perspectives.
Yeah, the whole shebang.
So I think it's going to be a really interesting discussion because these portrayals,
Really give us a glimpse.
they're not just about selling products.
Right.
They offer a glimpse into how society viewed women.
At different points in time.
Exactly. Revealing a lot about prevailing cultural norms and values.
And maybe we'll spot some patterns or like turning points.
Yeah, definitely.
Hopefully this will spark some critical thinking about the messages we encounter every day.
Oh, definitely. And trust me, you might be surprised by some of the things we uncover. Did you know that
Like what?
in the early 1900s, like the iconic actress Sarah Bernhardt
Oh, wow.
was already strategically using advertising and photography to shape her own public image? Talk about a trailblazer.
Wow, she was way ahead of her time.
Yeah, she was.
But then if we fast forward to
Yeah.
the 1950s and 60s, the picture changes dramatically.
It does.
Like suddenly ads are overflowing with,
Happy Housewives.
yes, completely devoted to their families and domestic chores.
Yeah.
Remember those like classic Moulinex ads?
Oh, absolutely. There's this one article
Oh, yeah.
that dissects a 1961 Moulinex ad featuring a husband gifting his wife an appliance.
Oh, wow.
And the tagline,
Let me guess.
Moulinex frees women.
Haha. Pretty ironic.
Right. Considering the freedom it implied was limited to
The domestic sphere.
exact.
It's kind of like, yeah, you're free to do all this housework.
It's all about making her
Yeah.
a more efficient homemaker, not necessarily an empowered individual.
And then we have another good example from that era.
We do.
A Bladine baby food ad,
Yes.
where the entire focus is on,
The mother's role in nurturing her child.
like, it really highlights how women's identities were often solely defined by their domestic lives back then.
Right. And it wasn't just a French phenomenon. This was
Oh.
a global trend, heavily influenced by...
Post-war
Ah.
ideals of family and domesticity.
Exactly. But of course, things began to shift.
Things always change.
Right. With the rise of the feminist movement
Yes.
and the social changes of the 1960s and 70s.
This is where it starts to get really interesting.
Yes, it does.
Because advertisers started to realize
they needed to.
that they needed to connect with a new generation of women who were joining the workforce,
Right.
pursuing higher education,
Yep.
and demanding more agents.
Exactly. And we see the emergence of the independent woman archetype.
Oh, yeah.
Chanel and Lexmark, for instance, ran ads showcasing women who were active,
Yeah.
professional,
Yeah.
and in control of their lives.
It was a definite departure from the passive housewife trope.
Yeah, it was.
But it's not like the objectification vanished overnight.
No, it didn't.
Because some ads from that era, like the Burgasol suntan lotion campaign, continued to rely on overly sexualized imagery.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Right.
It raises an important question. Were these portrayals
Are they really?
truly progressive,
Yeah,
or simply another way of exploiting women's bodies for profit?
it's a good question. It's almost like advertisers were trying to have it both ways, like acknowledging women's changing roles
Yeah,
while still resorting to those old tactics to sell products.
precisely. And this tension between objectification and empowerment
Yeah,
becomes even more pronounced as we move into the late 1990s and early 2000s.
right, because this is when we see the rise of girl power campaigns.
Exactly.
Think Kukai and Louis Vuitton, ads where women are dominant,
Yeah.
often treating men as objects.
Yeah,
It's a fascinating shift in dynamics.
it is. It's really interesting, but one of our sources argues that this porno chic trend in luxury advertising,
Oh,
while
interesting.
seemingly empowering,
Yeah.
might actually be just another form of objectification.
Oh, wow. So instead of women
tricky.
being passively viewed,
Yes,
they're now actively viewing and objectifying men.
exactly.
It's like a reversal of the traditional gaze.
Exactly.
Do you think these campaigns are genuinely empowering or just a different flavor of objectification?
That's a complex question. To unpack it,
It is.
we need to consider the intent, the execution, and the potential impact of these campaigns.
What stands out to you? It's intriguing to me how these campaigns, even with their flaws,
Yeah.
reflected a growing awareness of women's agency and sexuality, but it also highlights that fine line between empowerment and exploitation, a debate that continues to rage on in advertising today.
Absolutely. And that brings us to the present day, where we're grappling with a whole new set of challenges and opportunities when it comes to portraying women in advertising.
Yeah, it feels like we're in a crossroads now, right?
Yeah.
Like, on the one hand, there's this push for, like, inclusivity and diversity,
Yes.
which is amazing, but on the other, We still see these blatantly sexist ads popping up.
Right.
It's like, are we really moving forward, or are we just stuck in a loop?
Yeah, it's a really complex landscape right now. And
Yeah.
that article we have from Le Monde,
Oh, yeah.
they bring up this concept of la femme objet,
What's that?
the woman as object,
Okay.
and they argue that it's still a huge problem.
Oh, wow.
They even cite recent examples of ads for like software and notary services
Right.
that were called out for sexism.
Wow.
It just shows how this issue goes way beyond
Yeah.
just overtly sexualized imagery.
It's like sexism has become more subtle,
Yeah,
hiding in plain sight.
exactly.
It makes you wonder,
Yeah,
how many of these messages are we absorbing without even realizing it?
that's why it's so crucial to be aware and to question everything you see.
Right.
But, the good news is
Oh, is there good news?
there are systems in place to hold advertisers accountable.
Okay.
We've talked about the RPP and CSA in France, but other countries have similar organizations that can monitor advertising.
Yeah.
And can even ban ads
Oh, wow.
that are deemed offensive or harmful.
Okay, good.
And let's not forget the power of social media.
Right.
Consumers can call out brands pretty quickly these days.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
If they're using outdated or sexist imagery. So it's like we all have a voice now.
It's true. We do have more power now than we used to.
Exactly. And that collective voice can be incredibly powerful.
Yeah, it can.
But here's another fascinating development.
What's that?
This whole idea of gender identity and fluidity.
Okay.
That's gaining traction, especially among younger
It's
generations.
true.
And it's really pushing brands to think beyond those traditional...
Like binary gender roles.
Exactly, in their advertising.
So instead of just targeting products at women or men,
Yeah,
they're trying to appeal to everyone, regardless of how they identify.
precisely.
That's a huge shift.
It is, and this is where things get really interesting.
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Some of the research we have suggests that this move towards gender neutrality in advertising
Okay.
could actually have a real impact on a brand's value.
Oh, interesting.
Because consumers, especially younger ones,
Right.
are more likely to support brands
That are seen as...
that are seen as inclusive and progressive.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Right.
But isn't there a risk of taking it too far? Like, if we erase all gender distinctions in marketing,
Mm-hmm.
could we inadvertently lose sight of the unique experiences and challenges that women still face?
That's a valid concern. It's like walking a tightrope.
It is.
We want to move beyond those harmful stereotypes.
Yeah.
But we also don't want to erase the realities of being a woman in a world today.
Exactly.
It's tough.
I feel like this whole discussion boils down to this one key question.
What's that?
How do we create advertising that is both inclusive and empowering?
That's the million-dollar question.
Uh-huh, yeah.
And there's no easy answer.
Right.
It demands constant dialogue, critical thinking, and a willingness to challenge the status quo.
Well, this deep dive has given me a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It's amazing how much we can learn about society just by examining something like advertising.
I know. It's fascinating.
It really reflects our values, our biases, and our evolving understanding of the world.
It does. It's a reminder that the images we're surrounded by have power.
Mm-hmm.
And it's up to us to be critical and engaged viewers.
Yeah.
Every image tells a story.
Yeah.
And as consumers, we have a responsibility to make sure it's a story that empowers and inspires, not one that limits or objectifies.
So to our listener,
Yeah.
what do you make of all this? Have you noticed these trends in the advertising you see every day?
What messages are you picking up on, and how do they make you feel?
Yeah, we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah.
It's not just about advertising. It's about
Yeah.
creating a world where
Right.
everyone feels seen,
Yes.
respected,
Mm-hmm.
and valued for who they are.
Yeah. And I think
Yeah.
that nicely wraps up our
Yeah.
deep dive today.
We've gone on quite a journey.
We have.
Through decades of advertising, witnessed the evolution of portrayals, and unpacked the complexities of representation.
Yeah, and it really underscores the fact
Yeah.
that this conversation is far from over.
It's true.
As we move forward, it's crucial to remain vigilant and critical of the messages we encounter.
So to our listener out there, keep those questions we've been discussing in mind.
Yeah.
The next time you see an ad,
Mm-hmm.
especially one featuring a woman,
Yes.
take a moment to really consider it.
Yeah.
What story is it telling?
What assumptions
Yeah.
is it making?
And most importantly, how does it make you feel?
Yeah. How does it make you feel? Your feelings and perceptions are valid.
Yeah, they are.
And by being aware and engaged, you're contributing to a more mindful
Yeah.
and equitable media landscape.
Well, thanks for joining us on this fascinating deep dive
Yeah.
into the world of advertising. We hope it sparked some new thoughts
I hope so.
and perhaps even inspired you to challenge the status quo.
Yeah, definitely.
Until next time, Keep exploring and stay curious.
Absolutely. I 230.